So if you have a big boat and you do a lot of dinghy adventures, you're probably looking for the biggest possible dinghy. And if you need something under 800 pounds for a davit system, well, you're probably looking at a 380 of some sort, at least until now. I know when I explore in the dinghy, we tend to go 8, 10, 15 miles. And if it gets bouncy, well, little CL 360, 380 can get more uncomfortable. Now, Highfield has a new classic 400, and it doesn't have the little 15-degree hull. This one has the big tubes and the 20-degree hull from the sport models.
Now, before we dive too deep into performance, let's take a closer look at some key features of this classic 400.
Now, the first thing you'll notice at the dock is just how much cockpit space this 400 has, even with the FCT XL console. And of course, you're going to get EVA foam along the entire deck, and up front, with the console package, you're going to get the bow step with the seat cushion and the recessed nav lights. If you don't get the console, you'll have to add the nav lights separately. Storage is reasonably good under the front, although we do see a 6-gallon portable jerry can. And that's really good because it's lighter than the fixed tank. It is only 6 gallons, but you're saving a lot of weight. And of course, you can always add a second one and carry it separately. So a little bit of storage up front. And even though it's a classic, you still get that reticulated foam underneath. So these seats will not hold any water. The water passes right through this foam. You can see it's screened as well. Super nice feature. And check out just how beefy these 4 lifting points are. So you can raise this dinghy in the air on a davit system as long as the davit system is strong enough. And of course, all of Highfield's tow and lifting points have hardened steel inserts. So any deck hook you're going to use isn't going to wear its way through the softer aluminum. This is the extra large FCT8 console. So it's almost the same console as a 340, a 360, a 380, but it's a little bit wider. In fact, this console also fits in the 420 and the 460. So you're getting the bigger console with the lighter 400. At the helm, you can really see how much space there is at your feet. This helm seat is raised up higher than the 380 helm seat, so it has a little more storage below, but it also gives people room to sit sort of over top of the tubes a bit, whereas some of them, you're going to be resting more on the tube. Controls typically in a console right beside you, and I kind of like this console control position better than the sport models in some way. You're not reaching for it. It's right kind of here where it's supposed to be. So I really do like the location of the throttle on the FCT consoles.
FCT consoles may be minimalist to save weight, but they still include a backlit LED array for control of nav lights, courtesy lights, and the bilge pump.
Storage. Let's talk about storage for a second. I like this little cubby in the front. It's perfect for a couple of dock lines. And there's 2, thankfully, USB ports. Cigarette lighter 12 volt and double USB port. Of course, there's more storage under the helm seat. It's not as big as a sport model, but that's okay. Again, it's a lot lighter. In this instance, they've chosen to wire the battery here, but sometimes I know people that wire the battery behind the seat. It's a little more exposed in the box, but it does give you more storage space. And one thing to note when you look at the bottom, inside this box it has its own floor. It's not just bolted on top of here where water can run and wet your gear. So while it's not waterproof, there's no waterproof seal, it is water resistant. And any wave water, any salt water coming over top or rainwater coming down isn't going to go underneath and soak your gear from the bottom. That's a pretty nice feature. The seat also folds down, so you have easier access behind in case you want to stash some gear back here. And this gives you a little bit easier access to the water. Now notice the big roll bar. This is something you cannot get on a 380, partly because the hull really isn't strong enough to have such a high tow point. But this 400 hull is much, much beefier, especially at the transom. And this gives you a nice high tow point for water sports. So just stepping up from a 380 to a 400 can really up your water sports game.
The roll bar includes rugged cleats for towing from or tying down the aft end.
The 400 also has a max horsepower rating of 50, and that's a lot more than you have in a 380. So you got the power, the lightweight, and the roll bar for water sports. Wow! This boat just has so much more ride comfort than the smaller classic models. And the problem is when you get into the 420 and 460, they get really, really heavy. But this boat, as equipped, is under 800 pounds. And with that, you get the 20-degree hull, you get much more substantial aluminum plating, you get the big 19-inch tubes, which offer more depth, more freeboard inside the boat. And you can put up to 50 horsepower in the back, which means you can really get places. You can shorten those long trips into 15, 20 minutes instead of an hour. Woo-hoo-hoo! I love this boat. It's just crazy how much more comfortable this hull is than the smaller hulls. It reminds me of the 420 I own, but it's a lot lighter. And that ride comfort really allows you to go further. But also, there's a lot more space in this boat. So I'm pretty sure I could put 3 full sets of scuba gear up here in front of me. Got lots of leg room. I could probably put a 4th set of gear behind the seat as well. So that's 4 sets of scuba gear and 4 people, and now you really are going to go on a big adventure. Now this has the FCTA extra large console, they call it the XL, but you don't have to put a console in it. You actually run this boat as a tiller. So if you want to maximize the space, you want to have as much open cockpit space as possible, and you want the lightest possible boat, well, don't bother with the console, run the tiller. And here you can see, now it's not that rough right now, but you can see how high and dry you're riding this boat. So the Highfields do have a spray rail that wraps all the way around 360 degrees, but these big 19-inch tubes also do a fantastic job of keeping you up. And they also provide lots of load capacity, so you can put up to 1,700 pounds of gear in this little 400. Not bad.
Time to plane with 50 horsepower and 1 person aboard is less than 2.5 seconds. This highlights one of the benefits of lightweight ribs. You don't need a lot of power, which means you won't burn a lot of fuel. The Highfield Classic 400, a lighter luxury tender that maximizes ride comfort.